It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio, 866-90 Red Eye. Thank you for being here this morning. Man, what a week it's been so far. You know, one thing that I noticed, and I was just going through some of the reporters' questions for Karine Jean-Pierre. You know, the president was out there yesterday talking about airlines and about meal vouchers if your flight's canceled and things like this with Buttigieg. And then he was out talking about movie night, and the reporters were just on her case.
Yeah.
I mean, they were saying, why is he talking about these things? What about gun violence? And, what about inflation? What about what's going on with Title 42 and the border right now? How things are insane. Why is he talking about meal vouchers for canceled flights? I was telling you that, what we saw from Southwest during Christmas time was an anomaly.
I was telling you that during the break that they used that. They didn't mention in the presser yesterday that it was Southwest, but they said in December this happened, and of course it was
right.
Southwest. That is an anomaly, and it isn't something that happens on a regular basis, and the private sector knows full well. You better make something like that good. When you have so many people that couldn't get there for Christmas, even if part of that was weather-related, you're going to have to make it good for those individuals.
Do we have any wood? I need to knock on wood here. I don't need to make this statement without...
Simulated wood grain plastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no idea what
I don't
that
even know
is.
what that is.
Oh, no, I feel there's some wood on the back of it. It's a sound buffer hanging in our studio.
Something just knocked back. I don't even... something in the wall.
It's the Red Eye Ghost. I have been flying for the really probably more like 15 times a year now, but really in double digits I've been flying for the last 25 years.
You would have to be a
every
business traveler to fly more than you.
Yeah, you'd have to be a business traveler, and I would think
there
that.
are very few commuters that fly that often.
I mean, I'm to the second level of premium flyer for American right now.
Right,
I mean, I got up to that point because I flew a lot last year, and I'm flying a lot this year. Not the first half of the year, but the second half of the year. You may not see me. But just got a lot of places that things I got to do. But I thought back to it. The last major problem I had, I believe, was 2005, 2006. The majority of flyers really don't run into huge problems. What happens is you have these things happen, especially for Southwest, and it's much bigger news. But actually, and I've been flying, for the last 25 years consistently, but I flew in the 70s, and I flew in the 80s, and I don't see much of a difference. I know people, now, before regulation, when nobody could afford to fly except the rich elite, airplane flying might have been a little bit different.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I'm a premium flyer, so I at least get the nice exit row seat almost all the time.
Right.
Probably 19 out of 20 times I get the exact seat I want, and probably most people don't get that. But still, I've been in a normal coach seat before, and it's fine. I've been in the middle seat before. And I have, because I do have the ability, because of my premium status, that if I want to catch the flight before, I can do it for free. Well, odds are I'm in a middle seat at that point, but all I care about is time at that point, so I don't care if it's a middle row coach seat. Just get me there, because that's what I want to do. But I have found very little problems with the airlines over the last 25 years. Not to say they don't exist, and not that I didn't have a whopper one time, but the one time it was the airline's fault because it was actually mechanical.
Yeah.
And that probably I didn't get in for about 13 hours later, but I still got in. I've never in all my airplane flying And I have to be, for all my airplane flying, for this particular stance of being on American Advantage, I'm almost to 1 million now, but I'm well over 1 million in my miles in my flying, which is much more than the average person. And I've never had to stay at a hotel overnight.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
It's never, ever happened to me. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen to people. It doesn't happen as frequently as they like to promote as a national concern.
Look, the Southwest knows, all airlines know. Other airlines are learning from what happened with Southwest in December. You don't ever want that happening.
No, you don't.
On the things you can control. Weather-related, everybody gets it. It's frustrating, especially at that time of year. Beyond frustrating. But on the things that are within your control, they know. You've got to compete heavily. Now, the answer is never. What we need is more government intervention. Because when you go out and you create a system that is, okay, now by law or regulation, they're going to have to provide this. If you believe that that is a solution, what you're looking at, as Thomas Sowell, there are no solutions, only a trade-off. And the trade-off will be more expensive flights.
Right. Which are much more expensive now than they've been.
Yep. And
Flights
what they'll
right
do,
now.
too, is they'll cut the number of flights, which they've been doing, because if they do that, if they become more efficient and say, all right, it's not efficient to fly from here to here direct anymore. We're much better to do this and do this leg plus that leg to get people from A to B. If that's in order to remain compliant under the new regulations, that has to be done. They have to change routing. They have to do everything else to make sure. Remember when the regulation came down on sitting on the tarmac for a certain period of time? Look, that's frustrating. I have been there. I mean, when you're out there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it's like, oh, my gosh. And the AC's not going yet, full blast, and it's in Texas, and it's 105 degrees outside, and you're sitting there. I mean, it's frustrating. I get it. But the answer is not more government regulation like we saw yesterday. What we saw yesterday is the addition of the cost of what they're going to have to incur if there is something that happens within their control. When you talk about an equipment failure, I want that plane to remain on the ground. It's better that it failed and I don't get on it versus the other way around. And those are the things that you look at, and it's frustrating. They need to do a better job at maintenance. They need to make sure all their planes are running. They need to make sure their fleets are updated. All of that is part of it, and we pay for it. But when government regulation comes in, that cost has to, first of all, they have to become more efficient to remain compliant, and the cost to do that is passed on to you, period.
Right. I mean, as you said, there's no solutions. There's only trade-offs, and I would say that this summer, probably one of the biggest complaints this year from people, especially in the middle class, is I can't afford to fly this year.
Yeah.
It's too expensive. It's
Right.
gone up. I mean, the routes that I'm on probably are up, I know they said the airline flight's up 17%. Mine's probably up about 20%.
Yeah. Right.
For me, the vast majority of my trips are to see my 97-year-old father. I don't have a family, so there is no choice for me. That's the cost. I'll tell it to Dad. Visiting my father is the cost of doing business.
Yeah,
He'll like that. I like that. But I mean, it's the cost of doing business of my life. There is no choice there. So whatever the cost is, I'm going to pay for that. Most people don't have that luxury. And so, not that there aren't problems, and especially when weather, it's a nightmare when weather hits.
Yeah.
But that's weather, and it's going to affect things that go in the air and on the ground. It's just the reality of it.
Yep.
Oh, I did spend one night. I probably would have got a hotel, but we actually, I remember the flight into Chicago that we got diverted to Madison, Wisconsin because of a thunderstorm, and they canceled all the flights, everything.
Yeah.
And I had to take a bus that left at 10 o'clock and got into the University of Wisconsin, Madison at midnight. And then we sat on the steps till 4 in.the.morning of the student union and with two women I'd never met before. And I watched their bags, and they went down to the bar section and got, the college section of bars, got a couple of hamburgers and brought them back for me. And it's like you become instant friends with people. And then at 4 a.m., the bus picked us up, and I got on a flight. Probably I had to connect somewhere else, and my show started at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday. And I got in there about 5 to 4. I got into the studio just before the show started.
Yeah.
So, and I had been up that whole time. So I did stay overnight. That was the worst experience that I ever had. But which is going to happen. Which is going to happen.
Sure.
But
I
I think what the reporters are saying is there are major problems of immigration and inflation that affect everybody. And there the president's talking about meal vouchers they look at that and they go, you're being penny wise and dollar foolish when you look at the entirety of what the problems are right now in this country and the problems we're facing this week.
Yeah. If you had come out, let's say mid-January, a few weeks after the Southwest thing happened, I could see the political play, right? Because it's still in the top of minds of people that were affected and everybody else that, even if you weren't affected, you saw the stories. At least I would understand the political play. But they're not offering any answers on every other important front. This is not a priority for most people, and that's because most people don't fly.
Yeah. And I think that was the thing there. I got the sense watching Biden yesterday, we just need a day off.
Yeah.
Everything is pounding on us, just take a day off. But the press, they were all over this saying, why aren't you focusing on the major issues that exist out there? And the left was on him about guns.
Yeah.
Why aren't you out there screaming about the violence that's happening around the country? Airplane ticket, meal vouchers, movie night?
Yeah.
What's going on? And I guess that's all the bigger picture of the bad polling numbers coming in. The interesting thing? Every time the president is out there or the vice president, it hurts them. Yet, when the polling goes down, they feel they have to be out there more.
Yeah.
I find that interesting. No, they don't want to see you go in the basement. That's your biggest successes have been when you're in the basement. Just disappear for a week.
Well,
but then the media now, if you disappear for a week, the media was like, where's Joe Biden? Where's Joe Biden? So right now he can't win.
Well, that's it. But I thought to myself yesterday was busy work.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the president is very busy. He's very active. He's not addressing anything important in terms of priorities. Oh, but he's busy. You know what that reminds me of? Your grandfather is very busy. This morning he did a crossword puzzle. He finished his oatmeal. He's very busy. That's what it reminds me of. You're doing busy. You're the president. If the vice president had come out in this moment in time,
airplanes fly into the sky, and we all like airplanes that fly into the sky because the sky is where airplanes should fly. And so we'd like you to have a better experience when you fly on an airplane in the sky because the sky is where an airplane flies.
When I fly, I feel like I'm really flying. That's because you are.
If she would have done it, we would have had much more entertaining audio.
So much more entertaining. That's our whole point of this segment.
We weren't entertained yesterday.
We just weren't entertained at all.
866-90-RED-EYE.
USDA's most recent forecast for this fiscal year's ag exports calls for $184.5 billion worth of export sales. That would be down 6% from the year before. So where are we at the halfway point of this fiscal year?
Agricultural exports are $100.2 billion, down 1%.
But USDA economist Bart Kenner says, again, that was for the first 6 months of the trading year, October through March. And as the year has progressed, export numbers have regressed. Prime reason?
The strong U.S. dollar.
And so as the value of the dollar strengthens,
our products are not going to be as price competitive with other countries producing similar products.
looking at corn, for example, U.S. exports of corn at the halfway point of the year running 31% below the same time a year ago at just under $6.5 billion. U.S. cotton exports down about 15%. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
This report is made possible by Cenex Roadmaster XL Premium Diesel and Citgo Lubricants.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 866-90-RED-EYE. This is really interesting. You know, you and I talking about yesterday about is Biden trying to set up a firewall between him and his son.
Yeah, right.
You know, I didn't know anything about this. Wow, really? He did this? I didn't know. Now, it's tough because we know that he's already lied, and the evidence exists that he lied, both on voicemail and emails. They didn't know about his son's businesses, so that's going to hurt him to begin with. But we're still wondering whether that's the panic mode, is to set up a firewall.
Yeah.
This is from The Guardian UK. Listen how they wrote this. You ready for this?
All right.
Okay, here we go. The White House is bracing for political fallout from a looming decision by federal prosecutors over whether to charge Joe Biden's son Hunter with tax crimes and lying about his drug use when he bought a handgun. In a signal that the investigation is near completion, Hunter's lawyers last month held a meeting with David Weiss, the top federal prosecutor in Delaware. A separate report by CNN noted that Hunter's longtime lawyer, Chris Clark, was among those entering the department's headquarters. Republicans would be sure to seize on a high-profile criminal case against Hunter in an effort to inflict political damage on the U.S. president, who last week announced his bid for re-election in 2024. Attacks on Hunter and his alleged laptop in the 2020 campaign fizzled, but the 53-year-old is taking an increasingly public role in his father's side, appearing at a state dinner honoring the French president, at the Kennedy Center Honors, and on a recent trip to the Republic of Ireland. Hunter's taxes and foreign business dealings have been under investigation by a federal grand jury in Delaware since at least 2018. His membership on the board of a Ukrainian energy company and his efforts to strike deals in China have raised questions by Republicans about whether Hunter traded on his father's public service. You notice how everything is about Hunter, as if Joe Biden was not involved in any of it. Mm-hmm. That Hunter himself, and I started thinking when I read this, I go, wow, I mean, this is the culture. Are the talking points already out there? Hunter was doing this. Joe didn't know anything about it. Hunter was trading on his father's name. Well, for what? Well, just his father's name. We're not going to complete the sentence past that. Just his father's name. Mm-hmm. He was trading on his father's public service. What does that mean? Was his father involved in the trading? But I just love how it's written as if everything is exclusively Hunter.
Yeah.
And when they talk about the 2020, the alleged laptop in the 2020 campaign fizzled out, they don't explain why it fizzled out.
Yeah, I can't wait for the day that Karine Jean-Pierre walks out and says, the president is stunned at his son's behavior. He just can't believe he did that.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And I'm Gary McNamara. Over there is Eric Harley, and this headline just came out a little while ago on Fox News. But I mean, we've been anticipating this of this, as we call it, the ultimate in the liberal circular firing squad.
Yeah.
And there's the headline: Gavin Newsom silent as reparations panel recommends paying massive amount to each black resident of California.
Yeah.
Well, it's the panel that he made. It says Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom is in a political no-win situation when it comes to a proposal by his own reparations task force. He set it up to pay $1.2 million in taxpayer money to every qualifying black resident as a mean to atone for slavery and discrimination. Now, before we go any further here, they can't do this. They can't afford to do this, but we do approve of Gavin Newsom starting this reparations task force, because Gavin Newsom, by doing so, admits the Democrats' long-term identity politics and racism in this country that includes right up to this current point of their identity politics. And it's finally, I believe, Gavin Newsom's own guilt and the Democrats' own guilt of their racist mindset that has led them to this point. So for the acknowledgement of their own racism, I do appreciate these Democrats acknowledging their racism to the American public, these California Democrats.
Agreed.
Right.
Look, here's the scenario. Governor Newsom stepping up to the podium, I believe that we need to move forward with reparations. And what we can do as a state is we can come up with a payment. I think we can all reasonably have this discussion, and I believe that we can come together and make this happen. $200 million each. I'm sorry, I missed that part. I said $200 million each.
From
we were I'm not sure we can do that. You're a racist.
Well, when it started out at $230,000. Yeah. And then it went up to $360,000, which it currently is the minimum amount you would receive, from what I can see, is $360,000 in California, but up to $1.2 million, which would take the total bill between $800 billion and $1 trillion in California. Now, there's no way they can do that. I mean,
That's
impossible.
not going to happen.
They can't. It's impossible. The bond issue taxes would go through the roof. They couldn't do it. They'd have to file bankruptcy on it. So, but it says Newsom is yet to weigh in on the recommendation by the California Reparations Task Force, which was created by the state legislation he signed in 2020 and promoted it.
Yeah.
While the formal recommendations were approved by the task force during a public meeting in Oakland on Saturday, they've been working on the plan for nearly 2 years. Newsom has chosen to be silent on the issue, even though he may be forced to choose a side. Now, this actually started first with, remember, San Francisco. How's their $5 million one?
Oh.
Remember, they're up to $5 million in reparations in San Francisco. I don't know where that has gone. Of course, that would be impossible. You can't do that. They would the city would go completely bankrupt on that if they chose to do it. But they started at $230,000 or $230. Then it went up to $360. Then it went up to $1.2 million. Then it went up to $7.6 million a couple of weeks ago. And this was the California reparations activists said, well, if San Francisco's at 5, we should be at 7.6. And then finally at the meeting last night, some of the activists wanted to go to $200 million per resident. And so if you're not for the $200 million, well, then you're a racist.
Now, but you and I said, well, why stop at $200 million? Why didn't they go to a full billion?
Yeah, we thought $1 billion should be it. Make it $1 billion. If you're going to blow smoke blow a lot of smoke.
If you're going to support something that will never happen, then support something big that will never happen.
And this was just indicative of far left, the far left in this country right now, whether it's climate change, whether it's we can run the entire grid on solar and wind. Well, no, you can't. But the fact that I say you can, even though it's impossible, shows I care more than you, and I'm virtue signaling better than you.
Yeah.
So I'm more moral than you
Yeah.
because I wish to do the impossible. And as we said for the reparations, I can see the justification. We came up with a plan that is impossible to do, but if we try it, we'll destroy the entire state. And because we're willing to sacrifice the entire state of California, we care more than you.
Yeah.
Now, if you didn't hear the show the other day when we actually did the figuring of if it was $200 million
Yeah.
per resident, which we used the lower figure of 1.8 million blacks that would be eligible for it in California. It may be as high as 2
Okay.
or more. Who knows? But with the 1.8 million getting 200 million, the total cost of that alone would be $360 trillion. And I know, sorry to the one truck driver who said he had to pull over to the side of the road because he was laughing so hard when he heard that figure of 360 million. To put that into perspective, California's yearly budget is $300 billion a year. If you added on an extra $300 billion and doubled the budget for the year to $600 billion and $300 billion for the state and $300 billion for reparations, and you don't add interest and you don't add index it to inflation, it would take 1,200 years to pay it off.
Then what are we waiting for?
Some Republicans have spoken up on it. This has been a fool's errand from the start, said James Gallagher, California Assembly Republican leader, told Fox News Digital. Democrats have promised the world with this reparations task force, and now the massive taxpayer bill is coming due. Newsom has painted himself into a corner. He'll have to choose between signing off on a ridiculous policy that will bankrupt the state or admitting once and for all that this task force was nothing more than a political stunt. Then they go through what the recommendations are and gets to the point. It's unclear how California would pay for large-scale reparations. Newsom announced in January the state faces a projected budget deficit of $22.5 billion for the coming fiscal year. Now they say it should have added on another $7 billion, so it's $30 billion in the hole so far. Proponents have called on Newsom to use his authority as governor to unilaterally enact the proposal if the legislature doesn't. The governor risks angering a large constituency if he fails to act. Polls have shown the vast majority of black Americans support these slavery reparations. I don't know who wouldn't.
Right.
In fact, what they found out is everybody who will get... in fact, they found black Americans who will not get the reparations in California are against the reparations.
What?
Black Americans who are getting the reparations would get it, are in favor of it. Everybody else, even minorities who would not get the reparations, it's almost 99-1 against.
Oh.
Duh.
You mean the people paying for it are against it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Critics argue that Newsom will use the lofty proposal to score political points because he views it as a non-starter in the state legislature. He knows it's impossible. Newsom wants national publicity on reparations like he received with gay marriage. As the mayor of San Francisco, said John Dennis, chairman of the San Francisco Republican Party. He's a chairman, and they have one other member. It's in San Francisco.
Yeah, right.
He knows reparations will be ultimately struck down, in which case he can look like a hero and yet blame the lack of reparations on the Trump appointee-dominated Supreme Court. Said another Republican assemblyman, everyone knew California didn't have the financial means to pay reparations when this commission was created. Now the governor has ripped open a painful generational wounds of slavery under false pretenses and false expectations. Why? For cheap political points. Slavery was never legal in the state of California, something that we can be proud of in this state, he said. When the Governor's Reparations Commission recommends spending billions of taxpayer dollars on reparations, it sends a wrong message that some hardworking taxpayers owe others for a crime they had nothing to do with. We must instead focus on investing precious tax dollars on projects that benefit all the citizens of California rather than drive division between groups. But they wanted to do. This is the best part here, Eric. You ready for this?
All right.
California Cal Matters recently asked 80 assembly members whether they support the task force proposal. 3 out of the 80 said yes. The rest declined to respond.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got to go. I'm not taking questions right now.
I mean, This is the ultimate in the liberal circular firing squad because can you imagine them debating it? Well, we can't go with this proposal here. No, maybe 50,000 racist.
Yeah,
maybe 10,000 racist more.
Wow.
I mean, it's just I can't. I hope that C-SPAN will cover the debate in the state legislature on the reparations. Please do that.
Please.
I want to see the back and forth. I want to see the liberal circular firing squad in full action here.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, did we call this?
No, it could only go this way.
Yeah, there's no other way it could go.
Because the question is, how do you put a price on it? Well, the answer is, if you're promoting this and you believe in this, you have to put a price on it. But it's impossible to put a price on it. No, we're going to do that. Even if you got to the point of the governor saying $200 million, the activists would turn around and say, $1 billion.
Well, did you ever think it would get as high as $200 million when we started this entire thing? Remember, it started at $230,000.
I guess I
will admit, I did not believe it was going to reach $200 million per recipient. I didn't think we would hear the number $360 trillion.
I guess I was thinking that Newsom was going to get out of it somehow. I mean, he was just going to be able to escape the whole thing. You know, like in one of those movies where the spacecraft is imploding, but the captain has that little pod that he can jump into and then, boom, projects out into space safely. I was kind of expecting him to be projected out of California. And I guess he was, too, because, he was waiting. Biden hasn't announced yet. I'll go on my little mini tour and promote the Democratic Party. And then Biden announces he's got to go back to California and deal with this. This is what he launched. There was no way this was going to go any differently. And I don't know where the answer is, but please debate it.
Yeah.
Please debate it on the floor.
Well, I have an idea. Instead of doing this, why not give everybody, especially in the city, school choice? Yeah. Why not make sure that you stop crime in the cities so the cities can rebuild and have opportunity and they have stores?
Yeah. Yep.
And they have a quality of life.
Yeah.
Simple things. Education, protection.
Yeah, you come up with this and while your cities are burning, while companies are leaving and jobs are leaving.
You propose the impossible instead of doing what is possible.
Exactly.
You really don't care.
Nope.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Friday Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just looking at this headline here. McConnell and Republicans looking at candidate quality for the Senate in 2024.
What?
What a novel concept.
Why? This is the problem with the GOP right here. They're worried about candidate quality? That's not how the GOP was built. This time we're going to pick some quality candidates for the Senate.
Because we haven't been.
Yeah. How about you not talk anymore?
And
how about you just do that?
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah, just do that.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.